In Hammersmith, where the Thames whispers secrets to the shore, a royal babe was born whom all would soon adore. The king and queen were ecstatic, their joy a rising tide, as they looked upon their daughter with such overwhelming pride. King Leopold declared, "The city shall celebrate this birth, for Rory is the finest gem upon this middle earth." The celebrations echoed from the bridge to Ravenscourt, as every loyal subject came to offer their support. Princess Rory was a darling, with a gentle, infantile glow, and her love for shades of pink was very quick to grow. Her nursery was a petal cloud, her ribbons rosy bright. "She looks like a spring peony," the queen said with delight. Queen Seraphina smiled. "My dear, you shall always wear this hue, for pink is far more pleasant than a melancholy blue." The palace was a kingdom of blush and coral thread, from the slippers on her feet to the canopy o'er her head. 9 fairies arrived from the ether, where the magical spirits reside, to offer Rory blessings that would serve as a lifelong guide. Scarlet stepped forward with a flame-colored crown. "I grant her the courage to never back down." Then Amber, whose warmth was like hearth fire and sun, said, "May her heart be a furnace when the winter has begun. She shall never feel cold, nor the bite of the frost, for my warmth is a treasure that never is lost." Honey, sweet as clover, blew a kiss of kindness rare. May she always be gentle, and show every soul she'll care. Then Fern, with a step light as dew on the grass, said, "I grant her the grace that no dancer can surpass. She shall move like a willow that bends in the breeze, with a poise and a beauty that puts all at ease." The room smelled of nectar and fresh woodland rain, as the fairies wove magic to shield her from pain. Sky was loquacious, her words tumbling like a stream. "I grant her the power to follow every dream. Whether sleeping or waking, her vision shall fly, as vast as the clouds in the Hammersmith sky." Then Breck, wise and steady, touched Rory's small hand. "I grant her the wisdom to lead all this land. She shall see through the shadows and know what is true, with a mind that is sharpened and perpetually new." Violet sang a melody, her voice a silver bell. "I grant her the song that shall break every spell. Her music will heal, and her carols will ring, like the first joyous notes that the nightingales bring." Rosie followed quickly, her beauty so bright. "I grant her a radiance like stars in the night. She shall be as a flower, both fragrant and fair, with a beauty so dazzling it's beyond all compare." Sapphi, the youngest, stepped forward to speak, with a spark in her eye and a glow on her cheek. "I grant her curiosity, a thirst for the new, to explore every wonder and—" But she was not through. The wind howled a warning. The windows flew wide, as a shadow of malice swept swiftly inside. King Leopold shouted, "What dark force is this?" as the air turned to ice and the serpents did hiss. Storm appeared in a whirlwind, infuriated and cold, her eyes like the lightning that the legends foretold. Her voice was a cacophony, a grating, harsh sound, as she loomed o'er the cradle and shadowed the ground. "You invited the others, but alienate me?" she hissed with a sneer that was dreadful to see. Queen Seraphina pleaded, "Please, do not stay." But Storm only laughed in a loathsome, dark way. On her 16th year, Storm shrieked with a grin, "The abysmal end of her life shall begin. She'll prick her soft finger on a spindle's sharp tip, and the cup of her life shall take its last sip. She will fall into death, a cold, final sleep, while the rest of you linger to wail and to weep." King Leopold cried, "You are banished and barred. Your heart is a stone that is jagged and hard. Get thee from my palace, you shadow of night." But Sapphi remained, though her spirit was shaken. Her life, she declared, shall not be forsaken. She won't face demise, but a sleep deep and long, until she is woken by love's ancient song. The king was still worried, exacerbated by fear. "We must stop this malfunction from ever drawing near. Vandalize every spindle, prohibit the wheel. We shall banish the thread with a royal iron seal." The queen nodded sadly. "We must keep her from harm." Rory grew tall, an iridescent sight, her pink gowns a shimmer in Hammersmith's light. But she looked at the hill with a petulant eye, where a tall, lonely tower touched the gray of the sky. Why am I barred from that height, she would ask. King Leopold sighed, a most difficult task. That hill is a place of old power and dread, where storm hid her malice, was all that he said. It is prohibited, Rory. You must never go there. But curiosity simmered like tea in a pot, and Rory decided to see what was what. One little look cannot hurt, she did muse, as she put on her finest of pink ribbon shoes. She crept past the sentries and ran through the gate, unknowingly walking toward her dark fate. The hill was a graveyard of silence and stone, where the wind through the ruins did whistle and moan. It's just an old tower, she said with a sigh. She climbed up the stairs of the dilapidated tower and found a small room in the dark final hour. There sat an old woman with fingers of bone, spinning a thread in the shadows alone. What is that word? Rory asked with a stare. Storm, in disguise, said, Come closer, my fair. It's a wonderful toy, quite simple to spin. Don't be so hesitant. Let us begin. Try it yourself. It is easy to do. Rory reached out, her heart beating fast, to touch the sharp spindle, her movement her last. Prick went the needle, and Rory turned pale as the curse of the fairy began to prevail. Her vision grew hazy, her senses did fade, as she fell on the floor in the dark, dusty shade. The error was made, and the damage was done. As the sky lost the light of the Hammersmith sun, Storm cackled. The princess has fallen at last. Asleep fell like lead o'er the palace and town, from the king in his hall to the clown in his gown. The Thames stopped its flowing. The birds ceased their song, as the silence of ages grew heavy and long. Thorns grew like serpents, thick, jagged, and tall, forming a fortress around the stone wall. It was an eyesore of brambles, a loathsome green cage that guarded the princess for century and age. Rory lay still in her pink-petaled bed. 100 years passed, like a breath in the night, until Prince Edward arrived in his armor of light. He stood by the thorns, where the bridge used to be, and looked at the castle he traveled to see. I've heard of the princess who sleeps in the tower, and I shall release her from Storm's evil power, he cried to the wind as he drew out his blade. I fear no dark thicket, nor shadow, nor shade. The thorns were abysmal, with teeth sharp as glass, refusing to let any traveler pass. Edward fought bravely, his sword like a flame, as he whispered the sleeping young princess's name. You loathsome old briars, you shall not hold me, for I have a duty to set the world free. Sibilant whispers rose up from the leaves, like the sound of a villain who lurks and deceives. But Edward pushed onward, his courage a shield. He reached the top room where the princess did lay, as beautiful now as her very first day. The sun through the brambles cast patterns of gold on a story of love that was yet to be told. He knelt by her side, his heart filled with grace, and looked at the peace on her infantile face. My lady, he whispered, the morning is near. He kissed her soft cheek, devoid of all fear. Rory's eyes opened, ecstatic and bright, as the kingdom awoke to the return of the light. Are you my prince? She asked with a smile. I feel I've been napping a very long while. Edward laughed softly. 100 years, true, but the world has been waiting for someone like you. The thorns fell away, turning into bright flowers, as magic returned to the Hammersmith towers. The river began its old, rhythmic beat. Storm appeared once more, her fury of fire, as she saw her dark plans in the mud and the mire. But King Leopold stood with his people and bride. Your malice is over. You've nowhere to hide. Storm screamed, I shall curse you again. But her power was gone, as the light of the morning continued to dawn. You are banished forever, the king gave the word, and Storm vanished away like a dark, lonely bird. Hammersmith cheered for the pink-loving pair.